A series of strange events that paint a blurry picture for a missing girl. Chilling and bizarre 911 calls, unexplainable behavior before a startling disappearance, and a family's worst nightmare coming to the surface. All this and more on this episode of Seriously Strange, Caught on Camera. Even those surrounded by light and love aren't necessarily protected from misfortune. 30-year-old Kayelyn Louder, known as Kiki to loved ones, was born and raised in Utah, surrounded by a supportive family and loyal friends, and was on the path to a happy and successful life. She graduated from Leahy High School and attended Utah State University from 2002 to 2006, where she earned a bachelor's degree in social work, a field she was passionate about. But her devotion to help others extended beyond her education. Kayelyn was kind to anyone she met, and friends described her as non-judgmental and a deeply loyal girl who had a fire for living life to the fullest and laughing along the way. An animal lover, Kayelyn enjoyed riding horses, but her closest four-legged companion was her beloved dog, Phyllis. Those around Kayelyn knew they could always count on her to see the bright side, but her friends also knew she was struggling with job stability between 2013 and 2014 after being let go from her previous job. Kayelyn wasn't the type to dwell on the negative though, and she began writing resumes again in late September 2014 at her condo in Murray, Utah. But over the course of 2 days, the events that unfolded would change Kayelyn's and her family's lives forever. What began as a normal summer day ended with strange phone calls. At approximately 9 p.m. on September 26, 2014, Kayelyn phoned 911 to report a violent fight taking place at a party in the clubhouse at her condominium's complex.
I did hear the fight, but it was very real.
Were weapons involved or mentioned?
Yes.
Yes? What kind of weapons?
Police were dispatched, and upon arrival they found the party, a wedding reception, but any evidence of a fight or the guns Kayelyn had mentioned were nowhere to be found. Everything seemed to settle down until an hour later when the 911 center received a second hang-up call from Kayelyn. Dispatchers called her back, but when she answered, she was mumbling, seemed confused, and had difficulty remembering her own address. Then Kayelyn was heard saying her roommate was accusing her of being delusional and paranoid. Kayelyn's phone remained silent for the rest of the night, but when morning came, the phone calls returned. Kayelyn, who had no history of calling or abusing 911, made her third emergency call within 24 hours, this time sounding more frantic, saying there were intruders in her house.
Okay, do you know who this person is?
No, I don't. I just know that there's an intruder in my house.
You don't know who they are?
No, I don't.
Were weapons involved or mentioned?
They're not talking or responding. I'm just telling them to leave so I can hear them taking things.
So you haven't seen them, you can just hear them?
Yes, correct. They're stealing from my house. Out of my house.
Dispatchers could hear the distress in her voice, so they stayed on the line with her until police arrived, but the more they listened, the stranger things became. Kayelyn can be heard speaking calmly with her roommate, Carol, who pointed out that the front door of their apartment was still locked.
Don't do that, Sam. It's the door's still locked. It's not impossible. They must have a key or something. Why is the door still locked? Well, I can't explain that, but I heard like two people talking.
When responding officers arrived, they found no evidence of a break-in or any intruders within the residence. Later that day, Kayelyn spoke to her mother, Suzanne Louder, and expressed embarrassment over the phone calls, but said she was determined to go about her plans for the day, cleaning and writing her resume to submit for job applications. Throughout the afternoon, she texted her sister and told her neighbor of her evening plans to finish cleaning, despite being invited out, all the while sounding sounding and acting completely normal. The security cameras outside of Kayelyn's condo captured what seemingly was a normal walk, but by the end it was something very much different. At around 5:45 p.m. on September 27th, Kayelyn can be seen taking her dog outside in the rain. Barefoot and only wearing a tank top and shorts, police believe she was acting delusional and having an animated conversation with herself. However, friends and family contest this, saying she was simply talking to her dog, something she did regularly. Then, just 15 minutes later, residents in the apartment complex reported seeing Kayelyn crying in the parking lot and trying to open the apartment gates before suddenly taking off. But surveillance only captures the moment she runs from behind the lot and out of frame, leaving behind her car, keys, phone, money, and abandoning her beloved pet in the rain. When Kayelyn's family was unable to get a hold of her, they grew concerned, but when night fell and they still hadn't heard from her, concern turned to fear for her safety. Her family reported her missing and police began trying to track her down, but authorities remained skeptical, suggesting that she might have just run away. The family disagreed, saying that while she'd been enduring a bout of depression due to her recent unemployment, she would have never left her dog behind and had never had a history of just disappearing before. The family reviewed the 911 calls and said that Kayelyn sounded scared but coherent and completely normal despite accusations she'd been acting delusional. But upon seeing the surveillance tape, Kayelyn's mother admitted that her daughter's behavior in the video wasn't normal and that something weird was going on. Loved ones suspected the worst but hoped for the best. Through social media, family, friends, and even strangers organized a massive search party and raised over $8,000 to help fund the efforts. The family hired private investigators to aid the police in their search and offered a $5,000 reward for any information that led to Kayelyn's safe return. Volunteers and police scoured the area surrounding her apartment and put up flyers all across the Salt Lake Valley area, but after 9 weeks, they found no leads and no trace of Kayelyn. Then, on December 1st, 2014, city workers were inspecting the drainage pipes along the nearby Jordan River when they spotted a body half submerged in the water, hidden behind plant debris. Initially, the decay from the water left investigators unable to identify the gender or identity of the body, but lab results quickly confirmed the family's worst fears. The body was Kayelyn Lauder. Kayelyn's parents desperately wanted to find their daughter, and they wanted her to be safe and sound. However, that wasn't the outcome that they would receive. How had Kayelyn's body ended up 5 miles away from where she was last seen? Some suggested that Kayelyn had accidentally fallen and injured herself in Little Cottonwood Creek, a small tributary of the Jordan River situated behind her apartment. However, police believe the creek was too shallow to carry her body such a long distance away, but searchers were plagued by the question with the least amount of answers. What transpired between the last moment Kayelyn was seen alive on camera and the discovery of her body over 2 months later? Kenny Bass, a detective from Murray Police, said they found no evidence of foul play and nothing to suggest she'd been a victim of a violent crime. The why, how, and where of Kayelyn's disappearance and death remained a mystery. With no obvious signs of trauma to the body, they would have to wait until the autopsy results came in. After the body's discovery was made public, the family released a statement saying they were brokenhearted but grateful to know where she was and that they hoped in her final moments she knew that she was very much loved. A candlelight vigil was held for Kayelyn at Murray Park, and friends, both old and new, family and strangers, gathered to mourn and celebrate her life. Kayelyn was buried in American Fork City Cemetery on December 6th, 2014, but the lingering question of the autopsy results were not laid to rest. The family waited for what seemed like an eternity, and 4.5 months after her body was discovered, the results were finally released in April 2015, but only furthered the family's grief and desire for answers. The medical examiner determined Kayelyn's body had most likely been in the river for the 2 months she was missing, and the toxicology report showed no illegal or fatal substances in her system. Due to the amount of time she had been exposed to the water and the lack of physical trauma, the cause of death was undetermined. Authorities ruled Kayelyn's death an accident, but the family argued against that conclusion, saying, "We know there is more to the story. We know this was not an accident. We will continue to investigate and do whatever we can to seek truth and justice for sweet Kayelyn." If you have any information regarding the investigation of Kayelyn Lowder's death, please contact the phone number on screen now. That's all for now. If you would like to learn more dark and disturbing topics from me, please be sure to subscribe to my channel now so you don't miss what's next. Also, be sure to check out my previous video, my first ever scary story reading. You can either click on screen now or in the description below this video, and I'll see you next Wednesday.